Edufii, Edify, Edufii. Is it Edufii? Spencer is gonna show us how we're going to organize our with it. Organize our coaching.
You guys hear me? There we go. Awesome. Thank you. Appreciate it. So before we get started, we're going to kick off a little video here in just a moment. But just to give you a little context to what you're going to be seeing during my time is just like all of you, I am a golf pro, and that's what I did for about 10 years. My name, first off, is Spencer Dennis. I'm the founder of this company, Edufii here. And so just like you, I am a coach, and I built this platform based on my needs as a coach. So I worked as a director of instruction down in Thousand Oaks for a time. Then I worked for the Gary Gilchrist Academy out in Florida. I've consulted for universities, worked with tour professionals. And all during that time, I was coaching 40 or 50 hours a week, and then emailing, texting, YouTubing, TrackManning, V1ing, whatever other software there was at the time, another 40 or 50 hours a week to make sure we were all in sync. So what would I be sending? I'd be sending videos, notes, swing videos, notes, practice plans, schedules, whatever it might be. And because I was working with a lot of youth athletes, which I know that's why we're here today, to really focus on that, is they always have other people involved, mom and dad, high school coaches, and hopefully college recruiters, things like that. So you're always trying to keep people in sync, and the system at that time was just absolutely terrible. So again, I was spending an exorbitant amount of time outside of my sessions to try to keep this learning environment going. So we'll dive more into that in a moment. But what you're going to see here is a video from Cameron McCormick, who coaches Jordan Spieth. He's an advisor to us. He's been using the platform pretty much since its inception. And we'll learn a lot more about the platform as we go, but let's take a look at the video real quick.
You mean the dark ages of coaching? During the lesson, it would be note cards, it would be written notes on a page, or it would be a VHS videotape. They wouldn't watch the video. It was inconvenient, and the note cards would get lost. And that's when you came along and provided for the world of coaching, not just golf, but any coach that's trying to make a difference with juniors and adults alike. A fantastic product that would keep us all connected away from each other. I think like most humans, I'm impatient. I want results on the shortest time horizon, the shortest runway that I can get them. And so therefore, I'm going to try and do anything within my power to get the results for myself just as much as for the players, because I pride myself on the result. So tools of efficiency are technology and diagnostics. Tools of efficiency are Edufii in collaboration. Collaboration is essential to provide the person all the tools and all the resources, all the knowledge to develop in the fastest way they possibly can. There are only so many hours in the day and so many years that we're on this planet Earth, and we can't possibly hope to acquire all the knowledge to provide the best solution for one athlete, let alone 100 or 150 if you're a high volume coach like I am. Halfway across the world, a player last week or 2 weeks ago, can be competing in India in a European Tour event, but yet still get the solution they need to positively affect an improvement. That's the beauty of creating what you've created in Edufii. It makes our job that much easier to do that with a person that's just down the road in the next county or the next zip code, or we might need a passport to go visit them, but with Edufii we don't.
So as Alex here tees up the presentation, one of the things that you'll notice there, right, he talks a lot about efficiency, and that's what we're going to be covering today. But before we dive into it, I just want to get a sense of everybody who's in the room, and forgive my voice, I'm just getting over the flu, so just stay back where you are too. But so how many of you are coaching or teaching full-time? That's all you do? Right on, a good amount of you, okay. And then how many of you are maybe teaching 10 to 20 hours a week? Would that be the rest of you, do you think? And is there anybody that's not teaching, anybody that's just running facilities and running programming, things like that? A smaller amount, a couple guys in the back there. Okay, so yeah, just go to slideshow there, Al. There we go, so let's back up a little bit here. Okay, so one of the main kind of thing that we're going to be talking about today is this idea of staying connected. So we believe at Edufii wholeheartedly that if you don't have an app on somebody's phone representing your relationship to them, you will lose them to somebody that does. Okay? That's an important thing to consider here as you're looking at what we do. Because if you're still communicating via email or text, those are distracted environments, and you're going to lose the focus of your students, especially if they're juniors. They don't even check their emails, right? They don't even have an email account. And if you're texting them, then you're in a distracted environment with everything else. And if you're using traditional social media, there's no way you can compete in that environment, because whatever you're posting is never going to be as popular as what their friends are posting, right? And there's also, I know there's conversations around permissions, privacy, and especially with you're working with really young kids, putting sensitive information on social media is not the way to go, okay? So we're going to be talking about this idea of connected coaching. So a few of the things we're going to be talking about is, if you're like me, you might be going crazy, and I'm going to share why, right? So I already told you my story a little bit about sending a bunch of emails and texts. The world has even gotten more crazier just even the last 5 years. We want to talk about creating the right environment, and that environment means for learning, right? We want to create this skill development environment that allows an athlete to have whatever they need to improve, whether they're with you or not. Because the majority of their developmental time is not going to be with you, so we need to give them the tools to be empowered. And for you all, as coaches, to calibrate their efforts rather than doing what I was doing, which was trying to direct the entire thing via email and text. We want to do more and less time, right? So coaches that use our platform, as you'll see a little bit, they're typically saving 10 to 20 hours a week in communication and admin time because everything's consolidated. And we're going to talk a bit about your business. So let's talk about why you're going crazy. So hopefully this looks a little familiar. I mean, it's a very simple graphic, but you're overloaded and distracted, right? So there are literally trillions of dollars being spent every year to distract every single one of you in this room, and even more so the kids that you're coaching, right? So traditional social media, everything is there to get you addicted and distracted from what's most important so they can serve you advertising and hopefully have you buy some things. Now, obviously, that's not a great environment if you're trying to coach juniors and help them improve. And specifically, if you're trying to keep a whole bunch of people in sync, you got to get them in a distraction-free environment. So there's hours and hours wasted by this distraction that we're all dealing with. And we all have our mobile phones here. I'm assuming everybody has an iPhone or an Android in the room, right? You know, very rarely anybody's going to have a flip phone or something these days. So you've got all these smart devices, and they're great, but we need to put them to use. We need to put them to work rather than just use them as a Candy Crush machine or something like that, right? So you're going to see through some of the things that we show you that we built this platform, as you maybe saw a little bit in the video, to feel social, but that's so that everybody can collaborate and use it effectively. But it's a distraction-free environment so that everyone can focus on what they need to do, okay? So here's the big thing. This is probably the biggest thing, and you will forget this based on if you just look at what's going on. All right, so statistically, we forget about 40% of what we learn immediately upon leaving the learning environment. Okay, so you guys are going to leave here today, and you're going to forget 40% of it. Next week, you're going to lose about 90% of it. Okay, that's really important for you to soak in for at least in this moment, because you probably won't remember it again, like I keep saying. Because the big thing is, how can we get better at something if we can't remember what we're supposed to do? How are your students going to have you on the top of their mind if they can't remember what they grabbed from those sessions, right? And if we're working with a lot of juniors, mom and dad need to know absolutely what's going on with their youth player. Otherwise, they're not going to keep coming back to you, right? So the name of the game in instruction or the service-based business is retention, right? So if you get nothing else from today, pay attention to your retention, right? So it's my belief, and it's our belief at Edufii, that retention equals retention. So if you can help your athletes remember more, right, they're going to be able to practice more effectively. That means they're going to get better, right? And then they're going to stay with you longer, right? And that's the big thing. So how many of you have heard of this whole idea of the 10,000 hours of becoming an expert? Most of you? So pardon my language here, but I think that's bullshit, okay? The reason why it takes 10,000 hours to get better at something or become a master at something is because you can't remember what the heck you're supposed to do, right? So if you look at this chart and you can't remember what you're supposed to do, then how are you going to be efficient at improving anything? Yeah, of course it's going to take you 10,000 hours because it's just sloppy and messy and you can't remember anything. So hopefully, if we can up your retention by giving you access to what's most important consistently. So as an athlete, I have all of my learnings in my pocket, and I have my coach there too, and my support network. Then I'm less likely to forget the most important things, and I can keep layering on my skills and then accelerate my time to getting better, becoming a master, if that's something I want to do. And the last thing I'll mention this is that little subtext there. Why are we okay with this? Right? So all of us go learn something. You're going to be here today, right? And you're going to pay the money to be here. You're going to spend the time to be here. But in general, all of you are cool with leaving here and not remembering much. That's just, you've just established that. That's just the habit we've all gotten into, right? And somebody's going to pay you $50 an hour, hundreds of dollars an hour, whatever you guys charge to come and learn from you. And they've been essentially cool with not remembering anything either. But I don't think we should be cool with that. I think we as the coaches or the teachers should take steps to making sure that our students get what they deserve, and we as coaches do a better job, right? And the nice thing is if we have the information in our pockets as well, we will remember what the heck this other athlete was working on, because we deal with a lot of people. It's very complicated to keep everything straight. Here's the other thing that's really important, right? And this is, again, part of why you might be going crazy, is that your team is bigger than you think. So any one-to-one relationship is truly not one-to-one. Okay, you've got parents. If you're working in a lot of the sports that we do, because Edufii is not just in golf, we're in 60 different sports in 140 countries. So we've got a traditional team. I know we've got junior leagues now, we've got clinics, we've got camps. And then your team might be other coaches, right? And then a lot of you, I'm assuming, I mean, how many coaches in here that are coaching kids are the coach that's really trying to help them get recruited? Is there anybody that's really focused on that advanced junior that's really trying to help them go to the next level? Okay, a handful of you, right? So we want to make sure that everybody that's kind of involved in this recruiting process is in sync as well. And then you've got the high school coaches, you've got these other coaches that are involved, you've got the school, and you've got the traditional support through fans and family and things like that. So the team is always bigger. So going back to my initial example of what I used to do, I'd be CCing all these people on email. And obviously, if one person misses the CC or CC someone else, the whole chain breaks, right? So it's really, really crucial that we're able to keep people in sync, but asynchronously. Everybody's schedules are different, so we can't depend on calling them on the phone or texting them. We need a repository where everybody can reference, even when they're not together. So again, how much is your time worth? We're in a time for money kind of business. I know some of the people in this room hopefully are evolving out of that exclusively. We at Edufii believe wholeheartedly that you shouldn't exclusively be exchanging time for money. There's opportunities to create subscription coaching plans. And I'll say this, just while I'm on this page, while I'm thinking about it, is that we know in this room that nobody can get better in 1 hour, right? They're going to come to you. A lot of golfers want the quick fixes, but we know they're not going to actually improve or build any habits in that 1 hour. So for me, I never wanted to charge by the hour, because that seems like a false business model there. I'm saying, well, if you're going to pay me for the hour, then you should get really good in that hour. That's not going to happen. So for me, I was always creating coaching programs, right? Having people buy into the process or the plan or the journey to get better. So my business model was associated with that. But most of us in the room are charging hourly for either programming or lessons. So when we looked at the network or the world out there of coaching, not just in golf, on average, coaches are spending upwards of 20 hours a week emailing, texting, sending notes, sending videos, scheduling, doing all these other things. It's a huge waste of time. And the bigger problem is that all of this is after your session, right? So I've coached 8 hours. Now I'm going to go home for another 3 hours, and send emails and texts and try to piece this whole day together when I'm flat out exhausted. So a big goal of ours is to make sure that when you're done coaching, you're done coaching. You can go home. And everything that's captured during that time with that student is now able to be shared and collaborated on. So here's something that we're really passionate about, the 3 Ps, right? So when I talk about learning environments, this is some of the stuff I talk about. And one of my favorite books is something called The Talent Code. Anybody know that book, The Talent Code? Right? They talk about the 10,000 hours in there as well. But the talent code brings up this idea of how to really become a master at something. And they talk about deep practice. You need to know what to practice, how to practice it, and be accountable to doing so. And they have this level of depth that you want. You need to be able to have this level of ignition. So when they're talking about the talent code, they're talking about these hotbeds around the world that you would never think would develop these amazing athletes, but they have this level of ignition because they have a community of people around and this inspiration, and they're able to see how far people are coming. So we kind of took that and put it in progress. It's crucial that an athlete can visualize their progress, right? Especially in golf, right? Because you might take someone that's a brand new golfer, they're shooting in the 90s, and then within a year they're shooting in the 70s, but how often is that golfer still pissed? Because that's just the general nature of golfers, right? It's like, it's never enough. I could have done so much better. I'm unsatisfied, right? So everybody's expectations come with them, and that's the really hard part about working with someone long term, because they get better, but their expectations go too. But it's crucial, if you can show them how far they've come, when they get to those little blocks in the road, then they go, oh, okay, great, look how far I've come. I just got to keep going on that plan, keep going on that process, right? And it also is going to help them understand their learning trends and ultimately help them gain confidence, because that's what every athlete needs to continue. They need to maintain a level of confidence. That's the hardest part. And there's a lot of golfers that always want to quit, especially when they're about to break through. And if you can show them other times when they've broken through, it'll help them get through it the next time. And likely, in my opinion, probably the most important part of all of this is being connected to the right people. And an athlete's journey is difficult. You're working with junior golfers a lot here. And they need to make sure that the people that support them are all in sync. I mean, how many times have you given a lesson to a junior golfer, walked, a couple stalls down, let's say, and dad stepped in and said something completely different? Anybody have that experience, right? Don't be shy, right? It happens all the time. And then you have to enter into family therapy, right? Because it becomes a very challenging situation. And I say that jokingly, but that's literally the last thing that happened to me before I said I'm either going to quit coaching or I'm going to try to fix this. I was working with a girl in Pleasanton, and she had all the support in the world. She had a mental trainer. She had the swing coach guy that would come up and work with her for a day. She had the high school coach and this supposedly very supportive family. But the problem was, because we didn't have a central place to communicate and track progress, it all became this game of telephone, this giant game of telephone, with the athlete in the middle trying to coordinate, this young 16-year-old girl trying to coordinate this entire high-performance training environment, right? Clearly didn't work. She had all the best tools and all the money at her disposal, but it only took a few conversations from dad chirping in the ear to ruin it all, right? And they literally had to go to family therapy. The whole family almost broke apart over this young girl's golf career. It was very, very sad. So I felt at that point, like if they can't even pull it off with all these great coaches that are trying really hard, then what chance does anybody else have, right? So then obviously Edufii came along, and it's been a long road, but here we are. But I think the most important part is we need everybody in sync. And there's a young girl in Dallas that I think kind of shares the story very well. She was only 10 years old. And she was one of the early people to adopt Edufii with her coach. And she'd been playing golf a total of 1 year, okay? And only like a 10-year-old can say, she was like, oh man, before Edufii, my game was like this. And then she just started, right? So it's like, my game was like this, right? Now after Edufii, my game's like this. And the only reason she's really saying that is because her dad's not contradicting everything she's saying, right? They go in the backyard, and the dad starts to say something, and she pulls out her phone or the family iPad or whatever it was and says, no, Coach Kalen says this, right? And that's a big, big deal, right? Because you guys don't want to be undermined constantly, and that's pretty much your entire life right now as youth coaches, is every time that parent leaves, all your work probably just got undone, okay? And you're very fortunate if that's not the case, but let's take steps to at least alleviate that if we possibly can. And some of our partners with Nike camps and PGA camps and things like that, that's one of the big things they want, is because what is the typical response to the question of what did you learn today? Or how was camp? Exactly. I don't know. I had Snickers or whatever, right? There's a young girl that I'll highlight in a moment here. Her name's Amelia. Amelia, and I worked with her when she was about 12 or 13, and now she's done a lot of great things. But her previous coach was Claude Harmon. At 11 and 12 years old, she won the ladies' championship in Dubai. Like, she's an amazing player, and she was working with one of the best coaches in the world at the time. She comes to me in this little podunk town in California. This is very surprising. And I go, wow, you worked with this great coach. This is really cool. What'd you guys do? It was even worse almost. It was like, I ran around a lot. That's all she had, right? And she was even featured in Golf World. So literally the only record of her instructional experience was an article that Golf World wrote, right? That's a big problem, right? You're working with one of the best coaches ever. And we've all of us here were golfers at one time, and maybe a lot of us are still playing and maybe working with a coach too. But the problem is, I know when I was playing professionally and really going for golf, I mean, I don't have any notes or videos or anything. And that's a big problem. And even when I was working with national players, you know, former Olympic players and things like that, they still didn't have any record of anything that was going on, and that's a big problem too. So let's talk about a little bit about markers of a successful coaching relationship. So I mentioned a little bit earlier this idea of directive versus calibrative feedback. So anytime a new student's going to come to you all here, they're coming to you because they're clueless. They don't know what to do, right? They're looking to you for the guidance to help them get better. So at that point, you're going to create a plan. You're going to direct that plan. But the goal, as a lot of you will understand in this room, the goal is to flip that to calibrative feedback as soon as possible, meaning that you're creating an autonomous athlete, right? They have what they need to get better. They can fix themselves on the golf course, which is hopefully what we're all looking for, right? We want them to play better, and they need to be out there and be able to figure it out on their own. They also need to know what to practice and how to practice it, right? And then you can calibrate them along the way. But if you have no central place where that plan or that progress is being tracked, there's no way for you to calibrate them. Every time you see them, it's going to be, what did you do the last month? What have you been up to? And you have this big download and nobody can remember. And their grip still looks all messed up. And now they're playing left-handed and you didn't even know. Or they read Golf Digest just yesterday. And now they can't even hit the ball, right? So you have all these things that you're competing with. And specifically in golf, there's so much information and every golfer is so bored. Right? That's why the Golf Channel exists, right? And that's why Golf Digest and Golf Magazine's there. They're bored. So for you all, we need to figure out a way for your information to stay in front of your students so they're not looking on YouTube for somebody else's. Right? If you want them to go down the path that you're creating for them, you need your information in front of them enough to where Hank Haney's not telling them how to fix their slice. You are. Okay? That's a big deal. So supportive conditions, I've already talked quite a bit about that. We need to make sure that that athlete feels safe, right? Especially junior golfers. We want to make them feel safe. We want to create a fail-safe environment so they can experiment and try new things without the fear of being mocked by everybody. That's why social media doesn't work for coaching, because it's public by nature, right? So, and this might be polarizing in the room, but it really bothers me when a lot of coaches will put swings of their students in a Facebook group, especially a junior golfer, and say, what do y'all think? I don't think that's very cool. I don't think the junior golfer even said you could do that, right? And the parent definitely didn't say you could do that. And again, that might be a polarizing comment in this room, but I believe wholeheartedly in that, because if somebody put my son on social media, you would never see him again, okay? The other thing is that doesn't help anybody because they don't know anything about that player. They don't know anything about their history or what their tendencies are, what their injuries are, what they're even trying to do. It's just a snapshot of one camera angle that might have been too off further to the right, and now their swing plane looks completely different. Right? So we need a place where everybody that is involved in the athlete's development can coordinate and collaborate, but we don't need the whole world to chime in. That's not going to help anybody. And then that last part is self-correcting. We need this organization or these relationships to be self-correcting. They need to be dynamic, right? They need to be fluid. And the only way you can do that is having an asynchronous connection so that everybody can kind of adjust on the fly, right? That's what the great teams and the great athletes always do. So this is one of the big ones that we're really proud of at Edufii, is this idea of no more email and text, right? I hate email, I hate texting, I hate all that kind of stuff, especially when it comes to actually trying to improve and trying to get better at something. So last year, or I guess it was 2 years ago, we created a partnership with the David Ledbetter Academies. And one of the final things that kind of broke the relationship open was I was having lunch with David, And during that lunch, we're looking at Lydia's swings, and we're looking at him on V1, which is cool, you know, and looking around at him. And he's a really neat guy. I mean, if you guys haven't had a chance to meet him, hopefully you do. He's one of the best in the business for sure, for a reason. But during that lunch, he gets 10 text messages from Lydia and 10 text messages from Michelle Wee, back to back, just firing in on his phone, right? All of different swings. And all these little comments from moms and dads and caddies and other people like, what's wrong? Oh my God, my whole swing's messed up, right? And I'm going, wouldn't it be nice if you never got any text messages anymore about that? And I was like, oh my God, that'd be the best thing ever. Because the problem is, as you all know, all those text messages are buried in with how you doing messages. And there's no search mechanism. You got to pull them into another program to look at them and then text them back. The video quality through text sucks, right? It just breaks it down and compresses it so hard that you can't even see it. And then if he goes, oh, Lydia, you know, you're doing a certain thing in your swing. Remember last year when we did it this way, here's the drill. That's not possible, can't do that. And then he's got all these text streams firing off, right, from all these different players. And then he's trying to manage his own business and some of his pros texting him that they're gonna be late for work or whatever, right? It's a complete disaster. So what we've seen and we're very proud of is that we've saved, you know, 3.4 million emails and texts from being sent so far. Right? And it's even greater than this. This was last month, right? So it's probably up and closer to 400 or 4 million now. So we want to make sure that if you're going to be running your business, let's run that business efficiently and effectively and get out of these distracted communication channels and pull everything inside. So I'll talk through this a little bit, and then Alex will play a little video for you that I made. But really, what are we going to do, right? So we're going to communicate in what we call spaces, or training spaces, what we call them, okay? So a training space is like a dedicated journal or a collaborative timeline of sorts. So it'll look and feel, if you guys use Instagram at all, look a little and feel like that on purpose. Because most coaching platforms or coaching tools or coaching apps, you know, like V1 or Coach's Eye and things like that, which are very much like it's a feature, right? It's not a platform per se. The problem is they treat every video or every moment as a disparate moment. Okay, and what I mean by that is that here's a swing from last year, here's a swing from this year. We have no idea what happened in between. And we don't even know what player that is a lot of times. We have to, you know, title them differently sometimes. It's not all that well organized. So we want to make sure that everything is categorized in these little buckets, right? What we call spaces. So you have spaces that are focused on athletes, and you have spaces that are focused on teams or groups of people. And there's a big orange button there, and really that you're just going to hit that big orange button a bunch of times. And you can capture any media that you like. You're going to be able to store media from all sorts of different services. So not just video that you're creating or notes or images, but if you're using a lot of these other cool gadgets and data collectors out there, we can absorb that data too, which is great. And I've said distractions a million times, but I'll say it again. It's distraction free, and that's a big deal for us. And as I was about to say, most coaching tools and technologies are focused only on the coaches. They're not collaborative. They don't care about the relationship, right? And we know, as busy professionals, that if our students, our athletes, don't use what we're communicating on, then why would we use it? It's just one more thing that makes our lives more complicated. So it's really important that everybody buys in. And then we have built-in video analysis tools and things like that you'll see. So Alex will tee up the video here. Enter full screen now. There you go. Perfect.
Hi there and welcome to Edufii. I'm Spencer and I'm going to give you a quick tour. So the way that you connect and communicate inside of Edufii is via training spaces, and there are two types, athlete spaces and team spaces. And what you're seeing here is an A to Z list of the athletes that I'm connected to in an individual manner. If I click onto Amelia, you're going to see that she has 3 different training spaces. So athletes within the system can be working on multiple things at once and have multiple coaches involved. If I click into Amelia's golf training space, what you're going to see here is roughly 4 years of swings, notes, tournament results, third-party information from TrackMan or stats programs. Essentially, whatever helps Amelia be her best is all going to be here, time-stamped, tagged, and made accessible to everyone that shares this space. To add something to the space, I simply hit the big orange button. I can capture any type of media that I like. When I hit save, it's immediately uploaded in the background, which means I can keep coaching, and then I don't have to go home later and send emails or text messages. I can just be done when I'm done. And then it's made accessible immediately to the people that share this space. So in Amelia's case, it might be a fitness trainer, mom and dad. a college coach. In other cases, if I'm running an academy or if I am the head of the PGA or a mentoring coach, I now have the opportunity to follow along and critique coaching. I can see how relationships are managed. So a training space not only is a way for you to track the progress, but more importantly, it helps you maintain and track the relationship. Additionally, you'll see that we have built-in analysis that allows a coach to draw all the basic lines they would want, do voiceovers, comparisons, and the beautiful part is even in comparisons, you can have an on-device or an Edufii library where you can store your swing models or your drills, or in future iterations, tap into global libraries. But the best part is when you hit save, it's then made accessible right underneath the original post, which allows you to track progress like never before. Now you'll see them on the Teams tab. And through Teams, you're able to communicate to any group of people, whether it be a camp, a clinic, a junior outing, or in this case, a community of coaches. So if I click into Level Up, you're going to see a community that I manage. And we have these different categories, or what we call spaces, that we can talk in. And I am sharing information with coaches from 60 different sports, 140 countries, and bringing them together to share best practices across coaching, business, Edufii, and other things. So if we click into Build a Better Business, you're going to see a very simple post right about remote coaching. And then if I were to click into the replies, you'd see coaches from around the world already starting to chime in, which is really, really cool. So as we scroll down, you'll see a couple of coaches sharing their information about how they structure their remote coaching programs. But ultimately what a team allows you to do is to bring everyone together in one unified place. It's distraction-free, and it allows a coach to do any level of things, whether again it be communicating on a very small level, or for an organization to coach people up. So there's more that we do, but for the purpose of this demo, let's quickly recap. So what we've shown today is that a coach can deliver more in less time, get out of email and text. Organizations can disseminate information, educate on small or large scales. It's a distraction-free environment. And for mentoring, it allows an executive or a mentor to follow along and see how somebody's relationship is going. And potentially, there's an opportunity for members to earn extended or continued educational units. So thanks for your time and look forward to talking more.
So we'll dive back in here in just a moment. And we've got just a couple more slides here. So as you saw there, it's social by design. And we also have a number of features like a library and segments for group communication. For anybody that has a facility with multiple coaches, it's a great opportunity for everybody to stay in sync. Again, we've partnered with Nike camps, as you'll see there. We work with IMG, PGA Junior camps, and in the Nike camps, we now work with all of their sports. So if you're working with any groups, camps, or clinics, this is something that can be very valuable to you to save time. But more importantly, make sure mom and dad know what's going on, right? That's a big deal for all of us in the room. Now, the last thing that we'll talk about here is a little bit of the business and a little bit of promotional code for you all here. So a lot of you might be wondering, okay, well this sounds pretty cool, but what does it cost, right? So we view this as a coaching tool, a coaching platform to run your business. So we treat it as such, and we only charge coaches for access to the platform. We'll allow you to bring as many students as you want and run the business as big as you want. So it's super reasonably priced. It's only $299 a year for you as a coach, so that's like a couple lessons. It's not a big deal. And you can have as many students as you want. You have all the features that you saw there, plus a whole heck of a lot more. And if you kind of bought into a little bit of the reasons or the why behind what we do, and you can identify with this idea of wanting to be a better coach and save time and help your athletes accelerate their development, then hopefully this makes sense to you. But we're running a promotion for you all here because we're now sponsors of the SCGA, and we're proud to be that. So if you put that code in, you'll get a 2-week free trial if you go to edufii.com or download the app in the Edufii store if you haven't done it already. And then when that trial is over, if you enter that promo code, we'll give you 20% off of the $299, so you can get in. Now, if you have multiple coaches at your facility, like you've got a whole staff of people, we do bulk discounts starting at 2 coaches, right? Because we want to make sure it's as easy for everybody to get in as possible. And again, you guys are running your business. You're charging your students for your expertise, your coaching. So we're not going to charge them to have access to the platform. We're not going to charge parents either. But what we will do is we'll encourage you and kind of coach you up on how to create multiple streams of income using our platform. So we won't take the money on your behalf, like we won't run the charges through, but we always are looking to help coaches create leverage in their business, right? We don't want everybody exclusively standing on the tee for their entire life, unless that's what you really want to do. But we all get sick, we have family obligations, we might get hurt, whatever it might be. We want to make sure that your expertise can keep paying you no matter what. And a platform like Edufii can actually facilitate that in-between time of your on-the-tee time, and hopefully you're getting paid throughout, right, instead of just for that 1 hour on the range. So before I jump, I want to open it up just to a few questions. You can ask any question you want, whether about the product, the business, any of the kind of stats or stories I shared. Does anybody have any questions in general about just anything that I brought up?
Yeah.
Go ahead, sir.
Can you do this with any other sports?
Yeah, so we are across 60 different sports in 140 countries. A lot of our other sports would be national programs. We work with dozens of Olympic programs, so like English rugby, English lacrosse. We have tons of soccer teams, basketball teams, baseball. So the nice thing about this too, if we're talking and focusing on youth development today, right? Someone like Amelia, the girl I was focusing on in that video just for a moment, she can have multiple training spaces, right? So the nice thing is she can have golf, soccer, tennis, baseball, whatever she wants to do. She can have all of those things being tracked in one platform. So we all believe, I'm assuming in this room, right, if you're a youth athlete, you should be a multi-sport athlete, right? Golf shouldn't be the only thing that you do. And the nice thing about Edufii is that athlete can track everything in one spot, which is really, really cool. Yeah. Yes, sir.
Those videos uploaded on the app from just your phone, or is it compatible like AC videos?
Yeah, so we can do whatever, which is the cool thing. So most coaches will use the phone or the iPad, in this case, right, to capture the content during the session directly in the app. And the nice thing is, because I would be in that training space, if I go back a couple screens, so if I'm inside that training space where you see that last golfer image, that would be inside of a training space. So when I hit the big orange button, whatever I capture there will be saved and uploaded in the background so I can keep coaching. I don't have to do what I used to do with V1 or a lot of other tools where I capture it and then I decide where it goes later, right? Which is that extra step really screws it up because you might forget or it goes to the wrong person, et cetera. But in this case, you can just keep coaching. Now, if you want to use JC Video or you have a V1 Studio or Swing Catalyst or a GoPro, whatever, we'll take any file type you want. And that was a big deal for me as a coach because there's a lot of great technology out there and we want to play nice with everybody. So whatever tool you're using, like Blast out there is super cool for the sensors and everything. We're happy to take screenshots or data from them, KVest, whatever will make your coaching life easier, we want to be a part of that. Absolutely. Any other questions? Yeah.
How do students get connected with us as teachers initially?
Yeah, so what you'll do is you'll create a training space, and I don't have an actual screen for that per se, but it takes about 10 seconds, 15 seconds. All you need is the student's email address, or if they're really young, just use their parents' email address, that's fine. And you'll create a space by entering their email as the athlete. You'll choose the sport. In this case, most of the time it'll be golf for everybody in the room. And then you can invite in maybe a secondary employee that you have, or just keep it just as you guys, and you can invite people in later too. If they get an email, they click on the link, join within 30 seconds, and then everybody's connected. And even if they don't join, so for those of you in the room that coach maybe an older group as well as juniors, and you think, oh man, my 60-year-olds would never use this, or 70-year-olds would never use this. I can tell you in golf, that's actually the bulk of our business is 50, 60, 70-year-olds because they have that disposable income and they want to be connected to their pro. Like they think it's the coolest thing ever. So, but even if they never joined, right, at least you now have a record or a file of what you're working on with them. And if they ever did join, then they're like, whoa, wow, look at this. But I know one of my friends who became the director of instruction at Isleworth a couple years ago, he brought Edufii with him. And the first lessons he was giving there, the membership went into the GM and were showing the GM what they were working on. Like, oh, this is so cool. Look at all the stuff I did. And that is some serious job security right there for that guy, right? Day one, he's making an impact that can be actually shown and shared. Yeah.
So, let's say you get a student that wants to sign on.
Uh-huh.
Do you recommend, or maybe you hear a lot of pros using like a membership fee to use that service, like to kind of offset your cost to it?
Sure, you can do that. Yeah, so most people, just to be just straight up, most coaches don't charge extra per se. They just view it as a big time saver for them. and they view it as a retention tool for that student to keep coming back, right? So that's how most people do it. But if you wanted to look at this as a coaching relationship, right, this isn't a 1 hour quick fix kind of thing, then you might say, hey, for my coaching in person and this collaboration throughout the rest of the month when I don't see you, instead of paying me $100 for the hour, you're going to now pay me $400 for the month. That's how I would structure it a little bit more. That's how most people do it. That way, if you do the quick math on that, right, you're coaching 10 people at $500 a month, all of a sudden your business changed dramatically, right? And now you actually have dependable income, which most of us are always kind of scratching on when that's going to come in, right? And there's a coach in Chicago, as an example, that charges $10,000 a year and is turning people away, right? And he runs his entire business through our platform. Yes, sir?
What would you say is the biggest difference between you and something like Huddle?
So Huddle technique?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, so
Try to be something similar to what you're describing.
yeah, so Huddle, the core of the Huddle platform is more of team film and game film, right? If you're looking at the bigger business that they do. Huddle technique, again, in my opinion, is a feature. It's analysis, right? We have analysis built in, but we actually didn't even start with analysis. We started with the harder part, which is the platform itself, the communication, the collaboration, the social coaching aspect of it. So we work well with Huddle too. If you like Huddle and you think their video tools are super cool, and you think that they're better than ours, and in some cases they are for sure, because we're not trying to compete, with every single thing that they do. We have some specific stuff that we like. But if you think Huddle technique is cool or coach is cool, because they are, then you can take that video and within a couple clicks you can drop it into Edufii, and now you can track it and communicate around it more effectively. And that's what a lot of coaches still do, which is very cool. Yeah. Any other questions? Good question so far, yeah.
Is there connectivity with Golf Shot or Golf Plan? I see you have a library from Revolution in Golf. Is that any of that library available through Edufii?
Yeah, so great question. So kind of the early part of last year, Edufii was acquired by a group called ShotZoom. We were just me and a team of scrappy professionals that tried to pull this thing together, and we did a good job of it. And we got acquired, and they own a couple of properties called Golf Shot and Golf Plan. Golf Shot, for those of you in the room, is really cool. It's a GPS application. It's got millions of golfers around the world that use it. And then Golf Plan was kind of a service of Revolution Golf. Within the Edufii world, we're going to be working to connect Golf Shot and Edufii together, meaning that you'll be able to get statistical information from your athletes that are out there playing on the golf course and pull it into Edufii. So we're going to be building a bridge that way. But the thing that we will never do inside of the Edufii platform is publicly showcase other coaches' information. And the reason why is we don't want you to bring in all your students and then again them get bombarded with other things to learn, right? This is your business platform, and we don't want to give them the opportunity to learn from somebody else, because one, that's not good for your business, and then two, that just makes them worse, right? Because they don't know what to do, they're just confused. So the products will stay separate a little bit there, but we'll be doing some things with the Golf Channel here soon and all sorts of different things. But as far as this side of the world, you don't have to worry about your students getting distracted by other things. But to fulfill that last part of that answer, one of the things that we are going to entertain within the next year is a global library, which means that as coaches, we can put in drills and exercises and share amongst each other as coaches. The students would never have access to it, but you might be able to grab a drill from a coach that you really like and reuse it with one of your students in a much easier fashion. That's something that we're excited about looking at doing. Yeah.
Do you have, I have a large database that's already existing, and
Yeah.
obviously I'm more functional with, again, scheduling lessons and things, emails and texts with parents is, I understand it's distracting, but it's when I'm
For
setting up-
scheduling, totally, yeah.
Fantastic. But
Yeah.
so outside of the scheduling, if I was to get Edufii and set that up that way, and I'm then, obviously my relationship now is emails mostly with parents for the students that I work with.
Right.
So would I literally almost just do some sort of a data sort of all the names of the kids in the emails and send it out and basically invite them into my network, so to speak?
100%.
If they accept,
Yep.
then I would have X percentage of my current students on that with me. And I would have an individual account where instead of doing my V1 golf stuff effectively, or just a normal text or an Instagram or whatever I do, I would be inside the app using that as my video platform because it then gets saved.
Your video and communication platform, yeah.
If I wanted to do posts, let's say I have a large number then are inside of that, can I do a single post and send it to all of them as
Yep.
well if I want to do group things?
Yeah, we have a feature called Segments that allows you to do exactly that. So who knows Martin Chuck? Anybody know Martin Chuck in the room? Tour striker. Does that name sound familiar to you all? So he's our ultimate power user. He's been using Edufii for a long time, and he runs golf schools. So he does bigger volume than anybody in the room just because of the amount of people that he sees during the year. He's not seeing the same people over and over again, right? So for him, he's got thousands and thousands of people inside the platform. So he'll take a little video of himself, click one button, and it'll send out to every single person he's ever coached, right? Which is exactly what you're asking, right? Which is the cool thing. We also have the team feature that will allow you to group some of those kids together, right? So you could have your advanced, beginner, ladies clinic, whatever, and you can communicate them into a group, create a little tribe around your coaching, which is really fun because then they can talk to each other, which is a big value. So V1, again, has really cool features, but it doesn't necessarily tie the communication piece together. So we have the analysis in that would allow you to do that. And you can send whatever list you want to us. We'll help you do it, and you'll be set up within
Does that link to websites? How does that work?
the content itself.
Yeah.
So we have a web browser version, so edufii.com. So some coaches will put a button on their website that will allow people just to redirect into Edufii. We don't necessarily iframe it, though, because we can't ensure quality or consistency. But we make it incredibly easy. And the most important thing is you just want all your people in one spot. So most coaches, if you guys are thinking about using Edufii, already kind of using it. The coaches that have success don't kind of do anything. They just do it, right? It's like asking your student to try to hinge their wrist. It's like you're doing it or you're not going to do it. So if you use Edufii for some students and not for others, then I would say don't even use it at all. Because it's just adding one more platform or one more thing of distraction, right? So the coaches, like the Ledbetter Academy, the Cameron McCormick's of the world, the Butch Harmon Academies of the world, they only use this particular platform as their way to communicate and coach. And if their students don't buy into it, then they don't coach those students anymore. They say, well, you just clearly aren't going to fall in line with the way that we do things, so you're not that serious about getting better. So maybe one more question, and then I got to jump off, I think.
I got one.
Oh, sure.
You say the $299, that's a yearly.
It's an annual fee, yep.
And then after the special, it's just $299 every year? Or?
Yep, absolutely. And again, if you come to us and you have multiple coaches, we'll pull out the discount, and you'll have that discount forever if you have multiple coaches. Yeah, and you can always contact us at edufii.com. If you have the app, we're always here to help you. And we'll obviously be around here to take more questions, but I don't want to run too much more over time. So maybe one more
is
question
great,
from you,
yeah.
sir, and then I'll jump off.
Data storage, is it all online or is it part of it?
So it's a mixture. So the way it works there is that we want to make sure that you can capture content and have it viewable offline. So us golf pros, we might be in the trees and have poor cell connection. So you can view it there, which is nice. But it also will upload into the cloud so it's accessible wherever you need it to be.
Just thinking catastrophic failure on your end and everybody's lost.
Yeah, well, if we had a catastrophic failure on our end, your whole world, not just your Edufii world, would be catastrophic too, because that means Amazon and everybody else went down. So we're tied into the same kind of servers and cloud infrastructures that all the big boys are tied into.
Just work at a facility that doesn't have Wi-Fi.
Sure. So the nice thing is it can be stored on your device, and that was a very important thing for me, because you don't want latency or poor cell connection to be dependent on how you do things.
Do a day's worth of stuff, go home and all uploads.
Exactly right. And that's the nice thing about what we do is you don't have to then pick where you put it. You can just leave your phone plugged in, right, and it'll just upload to wherever it needs to go. Yeah. So, but I'm going to jump, but thank you so much for your time. You guys were great, and we're going to be out here if you need anything, so I appreciate it.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. I'm going to go ahead and